But speaking of Paranormal Activity 2, we're going to talk about Paranormal Activity 2.
Tokyo Drift.
Tokyo Drift.
Paranormal Activity 第2章 Tokyo Night.
Yes, so there were two kind of films that tried to cash in on this. One of them was Paranormal Entity, which I've done a solo review of.
Oh boy.
Written, directed, and starring Shane Van Dyke. I have a review for Titanic 2 and Paranormal Activity. It's like, or Paranormal Entity. It's a combined. He ended up producing a movie with Warren Pelly. I'm like, wow, so Dick Van Dyke's grandson ripped this guy off, and then they ended up doing a movie together. Good on him. I guess they had a conversation and worked it out.
I remember, just as you're saying that, I just remembered that did happen. Yeah.
God, that movie's so... I couldn't believe that there was that movie, Don't Worry, Darling, that came out a few years ago. Olivia Wilde directed it. Florence Pugh's in it. Fucking Shane Van Dyke was one of the producers on it. I'm like... The Transmorphers guy worked his way up that high.
Talk about failing your way upwards, you know?
Wow.
Well, Paranormal Entity was an asylum one, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Okay.
I have a whole joke in that video. I'm like, who's Shane Van Dyke? Oh, he pulled himself up by his bootstrap. And I'm like, never mind. He's Dick Van Dyke's grandson. So anyway, but then there was this movie, which again, I did not know about until I saw your video. So what is the backstory on this? Where did this come from?
This essentially was, I don't know, like, the entire history of it. Just essentially, there was a guy or some producers in Japan that were like, we can kind of take this and make our own movie. And they, from what I gather, they were able to more or less license it from Blum.
Yeah, whatever version I watch, it opens up with like inspired by the works of Warren Pelly. So it's like they clearly work something out.
Yeah, I mean they pay, I don't know if maybe they got in, maybe they were one of the, like, somebody was in America and they caught it early and they said, ooh, if we buy the jet, because the thing is, it's really hard to get outside of Japan.
Yeah.
Like you can't just go on eBay and get a copy of it, or you might get like a pirated copy or something of that, but it's really hard to get. So that might've been the clincher. It's like, okay, you can do this spin-off, but you can't sell it outside your country.
I think that might be what it is. And they don't want it to get out because it wasn't in line with their continuity.
Right.
So yeah, I watched it for the first time last night and I really enjoyed it.
It's good.
I like Japanese ghost stuff, and this is kind of funny because it doesn't feel like a Japanese ghost thing. It's literally Japan trying to do like an American found footage thing,
right? Because in Japan, it's Onryo. You know, it's The Ring. You know, it's all the girls with the white, with the white faces and the hair,
which they kind of do toward the end, but
a little bit, but not like too. So that was the thing. It was like, okay, well, this is like we had. American movies where they were doing Japanese ghosts. So now here we have a Japanese movie that is doing American ghosts.
America and Japan have been like ripping off each other for a while. Like that's a funny. So I have that Godzilla podcast,
right?
And it's so funny to see these guys like hyping up -1, which was great, and Shin Godzilla, which was great. And they're always like, Americans just don't get it. Like, the Japanese know what they're doing. But meanwhile, as of this recording, we're in the Heisei series. And literally the producer in charge of those was like, I worked in elements from American movies I like. So Godzilla vs. Mothra has like Indiana Jones stuff in it. And I'm like, no, guys, we're just constantly stealing from each other. No one's more original than the other. We're just stealing. So it was cool to see their take on it. And they like... compared to all the American cash grabs and ripoffs, they got it more than anyone else.
Yeah.
So basically the story is, this girl was in America. She was in a horrible accident. She killed someone who ran out on the road. And she injured both of her legs. So she's now staying with her brother and sister, like Paranormal Entity, where Shane Van Dyke clearly wanted to sleep with the actress playing his sister, and it was very uncomfortable. It's like, dude, just rewrite the script if you want to bang the actress. This is uncomfortable. Anyway, so she's staying with him, but there's this evil presence that has followed her from America, and now things are going crazy in the house. He's like a camera guy, and he's decided he wants to document it. I like how he has like it hooked up to his computer and everything. Because the last one, Mika was like a day trader, and he just got into the camera stuff randomly. This guy's more like prepared for it. Yes,
Yeah,
yes,
yeah.
yes. So yeah, and then they just experience paranormal activity, and it just builds and builds and builds. And
One of the things that was cool,
Yeah.
let me just butt in for a second, was that they did pull off the, it's twice the, and it worked because what it was he had a camera set on him and a camera set on her.
Yes.
And so every night you're getting side by side and you're getting footage from both feeds
Yeah.
and you're seeing like something happen here. It moves down the hall and it goes and messes with her.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, that's really cool. That was inventive.
That was awesome. It's funny. It's a couple minutes longer than Paranormal Activity, but I feel like they get to the scares a little quicker. And they're decently placed throughout too. There's no long stretch of time. Sometimes in a lot of these movies, even the first Paranormal Activity, there's like a long stretch of time where we're like, okay, she's making beads with her
Ghost.
friend.
Ghost, come on.
Where's the ghost? Oh, it's a fake out. It was a spider in the bathroom. Okay, where's the ghost? But I feel like early on, there's that scene where they're like, here's the thing. It's supposed to be a sequel, but it feels very much like a remake because they do the sugar first,
Right.
with the footprints. Only this time it like blows it away. But I like that first like argument they're having, and the glass next to the camera just shatters.
That was awesome.
That was so good.
It was done so well.
And I wasn't expecting it. I really was not expecting it. By the way, there was one scare in this that's not even a real scare. I'll just skip to what scared me the most.
Okay.
I looked down at my phone for a second, and I was just like, oh, what's that? Okay. And then I looked up, and it's later in the movie where the brother is now in the room with her to watch over her, and he's sitting in the wheelchair, and I didn't expect him to be there. And I was on my phone, and I went, oh my God. But it wasn't even a scary scene. I just wasn't paying attention.
Movie's so scary, it'll scare you even if you're not paying attention.
Even if you're not paying attention, if you weren't looking at a scene cutting, you would have gotten very, very scared. But yeah, it feels more like a remake than a sequel, but it is a sequel. Do you want to explain the continuity here?
Well, the big reveal towards the end, spoiler, is that she got into the accident with Katie.
Yeah.
And she ended up coming back, and the demon transferred over to her. And so it followed her all the way back to Japan.
So did Katie drive around when she was a little kid and run someone over?
Well, no, this took place, this was, I believe, like right after, like, or right.
Oh, no, but what I mean is, like, how did Katie originally get the demon in this universe when she was a little girl?
Yeah,
was she riding like a big wheel and run someone over?
Yeah, she crashed into somebody, and I imagine somebody, she had an elder relative. Well, they get into this.
They get into it in the mainline movies, but
it's just
in this branch continuity, I'm like, so the demon just waits for someone to get run over and goes right back.
Hey, I'll follow this person now.
How to do it in the Middle Ages? Like, I'm waiting for a horse to come down here and run me over.
And what if it followed somebody and they were on a boat and they had a heart attack? Well, now I'm out in the middle of the ocean.
So yeah, I like that this one does. They give you like a false sense of security. They do the exorcism.
Right.
They have that priest come in there and saying, by the way, he kept putting that thing in front of his face and moving it. And I was just waiting for him to move it at one point and his face was going to be different. And like never happened. Another reason I like these movies. Like sometimes I'm imagining what's going to happen and then it doesn't. And then I get blindsided by something else. And then their dad comes home and then he disappears early because he had to be ready for work the next day. And it builds up to this cool ending, very kind of similar to the original. But what I like about this is that her legs are still broken, and the demon possesses her to walk around.
Yeah.
And at first I thought she was just gonna like walk kind of normally, but no, even the demon can't get it right, and she like trips at first. That part kind of sucked the scariness out of me. I'm like, I'm sorry, I'm not finding it scary. I'm like, this is really funny. But what they did change, they do the flying at the camera. At that point, you kind of have to.
Yeah, a little bit.
But this reveal is, I didn't expect her to already be behind him. She like comes up looking like the girl from The Grudge. And I'm like, oh my God. And then it keeps going. I didn't expect him. I thought he was just dead.
Right.
And it builds up to this cool ending. It turns out she killed her dad which again,
And
I was not
stuffed
expecting.
him- stuffed him in the cabinet.
Okay, that does bring up some questions. Like, how did he not smell that? That was a couple days.
Maybe well, it was the middle of the summer. Maybe they had the air on. You know, they keep everything really cold. Yeah.
And I will say another thing. I like that the setting is a little different. It's just a tiny apartment.
Yeah.
The mainline movies don't switch things up until 5 with the setting.
It's always just like a room.
Yeah. Or no, it's always like upper middle class big house.
Right.
And I'm like, oh wow. By the 4th one, you're like, man, I wish I had that house. You're like, you kind of forget about I'm like, I'll take 5 demons if I can afford to live there. What the fuck?
I'll charge them rent.
But I guess at the end, the demon gets the brother. Yeah, solid film. Solid
Really good.
film.
If you can find it,
Yes.
definitely watch it.
They know what worked in the original. I'm gonna see if this director or whatever did it. I gotta look up what else he did, because this was really, really effective. I kind of wish they like didn't say the name Katie, so they could have been separate and just kept continuing, and it would have been like a fake sequel franchise.